Welcome to day 2 of Conscious Co-Parenting. What an honor, what a joy to be here with you guys to talk about all things amazing on how we bring and shift our families, our beautiful children, our beautiful selves to the next level. So I am so thrilled. Every day, people who've done work with me before, they know like these topics really excite me. And so I always feel like, oh, this is my favorite. And then I'm like, no, this is my favorite. Just like a giddy schoolgirl this morning. Today's topics are really powerful. And I'm actually tuning into the order of how I'm going to share this. And it's a little bit in a different sequence than what I normally do, because I think the first topic is going to infuse everything else we do after. And the first topic is going to be intention. And it's going to be something that you may have never given a lot of thought to before. But I believe you me, we use intention all the time. Intention is our energy. Intention is our why. Okay, so we're going to go there and then we're going to go into 2 more. Before I do that, I want to just make sure that everyone is feeling supported and on board. And this always happens. Life is busy and people are like, where's the link? Where's the group? Where's the... Totally cool. I'll just keep sending them and you keep messaging me if you can't find it, okay? It's really important that you're in the Facebook group because that's where I'm posting everything. Yes, you're going to get reminders like you would have today, like calls in 1 hour. But other than that, pretty much everything's going to go in the Facebook group. And that just ensures that everyone's getting it and that you can dip in. It's all in one place, as opposed to you having to look for emails that I sent. And it's like, oh my God, I have 40 emails from Rad. And right, it's like all in one place in the guide section, and everything I promise that I'm going to put in there, I'm going to put in today. I like to not overwhelm people with too many workbooks. So each week, week 1, this week, next week, week 2, week 3, week 4, will have encompassed like the 2 days of that week, the Tuesday and the Thursday call. Okay. So that you're only looking at 4 workbooks through the program. Now, listen, we're all grown adults. Find your flow. I want this to be a completely guilt-free growth zone. You know what's best for you. I've dipped into programs where I got what I needed and I did and got out and I got everything I needed, right? Like some of you are new to this concept of coaching, some of you are veterans. The thing I want you to make sure that you're not doing is not doing it because you're not giving yourself the time, right? If you're doing it because you're consciously deciding, yeah, you know what, I have time, I would make time, but I don't really need to do this. I've done this before, or doesn't resonate, fine. But what I would love is that you're not doing this because you're scared to do it. You've never done it before. You think you're not a meditator. You don't see the value in, a worksheet. Like, open it up. There's a reason it's in there. Give yourself the gift of trying it. I've had the most wild turnaround stories. I had one of my dear friends from 20 years. She said to me, oh, Rad, no, like, I'm not a meditator. My mind's always going, right? And I'm like, those who meditate know you are exactly the person who could use meditation more, right? And we're all thinkers. We're all, whether we're conscious of it or not, we're all like monkey minds going. I think they say like, I don't know, I've heard different numbers, 20,000 thoughts a day, 60,000 thoughts a day, more than we can count, right? So it is good for everyone. And when I'm busy, like when I have a big day like today where I'm running a program and I'm in the juice and I'm in the sauce and I don't talk to anybody, my husband looks at me and I like walk right past him in the hallway. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I have a call. He's like, oh, she's in the zone. Those days, I do more. I don't do less. You know, people are like, oh, I'm busy, or it's a hard time, or it's been a hard week. Yes, I know. We've all had hard weeks. Those are the weeks you double down. Those are the weeks you double down. Those are the weeks you get really, really, really self-disciplined about how you love yourself. Most of us here, actually, I'm going to say all of us here because we're all parents, whatever that looks like, we generally, I think we can all agree, and tell me if you agree with this, like we put our kids first. Our kids eat the best. Our kids get the best. You know, we worry about what activities they're in. Are they doing things that they love? Are they understanding their school? Do they have friends? Like, we worry about all of this stuff. Are they taking their vitamins? Oh my God, my kids, like, they're like the walking ad for like Healthy Planet, like probiotic, boom, we got it. Like smoothies every day, boom. When's the last time I took a probiotic? I couldn't tell you. So love yourself, right? This theme that's been coming up in my mind for you, for me, for all of us, has been, instead of disciplining our children, what if we showed them what self-discipline looked like? The act of self-love. Wouldn't that be the best gift we gave our children? Because talk is cheap, right? But if they see mommy, even if they never do it, like, and my kids will once in a while sit down and meditate with me, which is really cool. But it doesn't even matter to me. I'm planting seeds. I'm showing them a path, right? The other day, I had a lovely dinner with my father-in-law. I was telling you guys about the 80th birthday. And I'm very sentimental, and I like to have like real conversations, as you can tell. And we sat there at dinner, and I was like, tell us what you know. Like, we never have these important conversations, especially with grandparents, the wisest people on the planet. I said, what's your secret? Like, what would you tell us? What's allowed you to do so well? And he said, my faith. I always felt like someone's big hand is in my life. Like, I've always felt if my family needed me and we needed more, this man is like next level. He's done so much for so many people that we know about and then that we don't know about. And like literally at funerals, we find out like, oh, your father-in-law for so-and-so. And we're like, whoa, like we didn't even know. He's just such a humble human being. And I said, how do you do that? He said, I just know there's something in my life. And when I want to give, more comes to me, And it's like, wow, like to see that in action. When we want our kids to have that framework. So I want you to do what feels good. Don't be scared. Try it out. If you don't do anything, you're going to get the same results you've always been getting, right? So let's make that shift. And again, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. And it's not me deflecting responsibility. I can bring you to the water. I can be like, come on, drink it. I can cheer you on. I can't stuff it down your throat. So yes, you being here and listening to this call right now is part of drinking the water. Absolutely. And doing the things that fuel you on a regular basis. So the discipline of self-love, and we're gonna have a whole conversation on this because I am not done harping about this, is so paramount, because we know we're a different parent, we're a different co-parent, we're a different parent when we just came back from a spa because our friend had a 40th birthday, because you don't just go to spas just for ourselves, or whatever it is that we do. Sometimes we need those excuses. We're a wholly other parent than when we haven't slept, overworked, taking on too much, saying yes to everything, right? It's like, these are small but practical and real things that no one's really taught us, right? And I coach all kinds of professionals. I coach all kinds of people. I've coached billionaires, millionaires. And so like, I don't get enough sleep. I don't take care of myself. Right? I'm doing too much. I can't remember the last time I did something like that. So these tools are here for you to explore, and they're given to you for a very purposeful reason. There's nothing random about this recipe, and you're welcome to tweak it, right? So I'm going to give you the formula over the weeks. And it's like, your best friend gives you her famous cake recipe and you go, oh my God, this is the one. We have the recipe. And then over time, you might tweak it a little. You might be like, I know you use white sugar and it tastes amazing. I tried it with brown or whatever the heck people, stevia, or I don't know, whatever people are doing. And it actually tastes even better. And I feel good, like blah, 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 right? Tweak it. I'm giving you my formula. I invite you to tweak it, but the key is play with it. The key is play with it. Make time for yourself. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel like, oh, I'm behind. None of that. Don't worry about it. You're here. That is 80% of the game. So have fun with this. Take your time. Call me if you have questions. I love questions. There's nothing you can ask me that's going to stump me, because this is not stuff I read in a book. This is stuff I live, right? And this is stuff that I've obsessed over. So ask for the support. You're worthy of the support. A lot of people I know feel nervous or guilty or shy or like, I don't want to bug her, or, it's like, in life, we get what we ask for it. So that's my little spiel on housekeeping stuff. Make sure you're in the Facebook group, please. There's also the meditation mastery group, which is the meditation tools. And for anyone who hasn't done the conscious communicator, at the risk of giving you more stuff than you can handle right now, you may also consider wanting to take that program. It's right now free. So even if you say, right, I'm going to sign up and park it, I think that's a great idea. Follow your flow, see what feels good. Do not overwhelm yourself. Some people are machines and they can, they could just gobble up content, and some people need to take their time. So whatever works for you. Eventually that program will be a kind of paid program. I felt like it was really, really valuable, and I got mind-blowing feedback, and I really loved it. So it's all about communication, and it really ties into what we're doing here and what you're doing in your co-parenting role. So I'd love for you to have it. And some of you have already done it, and some of you are starting it now. So it's right on my website. And if you can't find the link, don't sweat it even for 1 second, just message me. Maybe I'll put that in one of our subsequent emails. Okay, I'm going to make a note of that. If I don't write it down, it's not going to happen. All right, so let's write that down here. Okay, so let's get comfortable. And let's just take a moment, actually. Let's just take a moment and get comfortable in our chairs. And just stop the choo-choo train for a moment. Take a deep breath. The power of a quick reset is not to be underestimated. Let's take a deep breath in. Hold your breath wherever you're at, whenever you can. And then exhale. Come back into your body. Come back into your heart. Your heart is so powerful. Even the scientists are seeing it creates way bigger field of energy than our brain ever did. Let's breathe into that center. Breathe into your heart. Hold the breath. And exhale. Come back to your regular breathing. It doesn't matter how long you can hold your breath. The key is noticing where you're at and expanding it. I now take breaths in that sometimes I actually want to pull out a timer because it's mind-blowing how long I can breathe in. But the key is to just slow down your breath. Let's take one more deep breath in and then we'll come back. Hold the breath. And a big exhale. You can come back when you're ready. I'm never ready to come back. There's a whole party going on inside over there. If you really start to tap into it, it's mind-blowing. So, intention. Let's talk about intention. And one of the things that when I do a meditation practice, and you'll see I talk about this in greater detail in the context of meditation, for in a meditation practice is even when you start your meditation, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes. It's really powerful to set an intention even before you start your meditation. So just linking that there for a moment. So an intention example might be, I want to let go of all the heavy stuff I'm carrying that I'm ready to let go of today, right? Because our system's going to do it at its pace. Your intention may be, I want to raise my energy. I want to raise my frequency. And we're going to have whole conversations about frequency and vibration and energy. It may be that I just want to quiet my mind down. I just want to slow down the choo-choo train. I have a really busy day. It may be I want more clarity, right? There's so many reasons why. Now, what's really important to understand about intention, I want you to think about intention like the rocket fuel that then helps determine or fully determines the outcome of something. Okay? So it's the energy behind what you're doing. So, you know, sometimes, like if you think about texting people, right? You think they're just seeing my words. And even though I'm really pissed off right now, I'm going to pretend like I'm okay with this. And I'm going to go smiley face, right? The energy behind it is what the person feels. You could put all smiley faces, emojis in the world. That's what people feel. It's like the subtext. It's the underlying energy of statements, actions, being. Okay? So there are two different sides to intention. There's really only two energies. It's really that simple. We're going to have a discussion about this right now. There's love and there's fear. There's love and then there's fear. Let's talk about, what do you think energies of fear look like? Throw it into the chat if you will. And I know some of you are on the replay. So if you're on the replay, just no problem. Love you, Vicky. Just write it down where you are, right? Like I want you to engage at any stage that you're doing this. What are some energies behind fear? So I'm going to give you an example. Worrying. It's like, I did this for my child because it's your why. So think of your why. Why do we do things? So I signed my kid up for 5,000 classes of ballet because it's either love or fear. It's love because she loves ballet. She asked me to sign her up and she gets so excited when it's like time to go to ballet and she grabs her shoes, or he, right? And versus, oh my God, my kids are not in as many activities as everybody else's kids. My kids don't know how to do anything. What kind of talent? Like, what if they were meant to be a dancer and I didn't put them in ballet in time? What if, right? That's fear. That's worry. Another word that somebody threw in the chat, thank you very much, is abandonment. Thanks, Ron. Yeah. Right? It's like, I'm going to do this because if I don't, I'm scared I'm going to be abandoned. Yes? So we do this all the time. And there's only, let me backtrack for 1 second. There's only two ways humans operate: consciously and unconsciously. We are either conscious of our behavior or we are unconscious of our behavior. And so this is not a poo-poo party. This is not like, hey, let me shit on myself. This is, wow, I didn't realize I was doing this. And now I see it and I'm going to change it. That's it. That's what expanding our self-awareness means. That's what expanding our consciousness means, right? Becoming more self-aware, more awake. So who here has been in a car driving somewhere and it's like you go into autopilot while you're driving because you've been driving for so many years and it might be a route that you were used to taking and you're all distracted because what do? We have 60,000 thoughts in our mind we have to entertain right now, right? It's like, drive, who's driving? And then you're like, oh my God, I don't know how I got here. Has that happened to anybody? Like, I don't know how or you missed the turn and you're like, oh, I got distracted. We are unconscious, right? Who here's lost their cell phone before? I do that probably like 3 times a day, right? Because I just put it down without thinking. And then I'm like, oh, where was I? Okay, I was in my kid's closet. I was here. I was there. I was really gonna have to backtrack, right? Like until I glue it to my forehead, I don't know if I'm gonna get this one in this lifetime. We do things unconsciously all the time. So what we're doing is shifting into understanding what is fueling you, what is fueling your words, what is fueling your action, your saying yes to things, your committing to things, signing your kids up for things, responding to your ex about things. It's like, what's fueling this? Is it love or is it fear? Is it like, I just want to stick it to him or her because I'm angry? Because that's in the family of fear. Okay. So anger, resentment, someone said abandonment, right? Worry. It's like a funky energy. It's like not the reason we should be doing things, right? Punishment. We want to punish someone. We want to stick up for ourselves, which is often a very misunderstood concept, like having boundaries. You know, it's like, okay, but are you doing it from a place of love or are you doing it from a place of anger? Right? They're two very different things. And so starting to become aware of your intention before you send a text message. Somebody sends you a text message and you're triggered. We're on the co-parenting program. Chances are it's your ex, right? Or the co-parent. And so the first step is obviously realizing that we're triggered, that we're pissed, that our heart's racing, and we're like, we're in fight or flight. What does fight or flight elicit? It's a fear-based response. We're humans, we're mammals, right? We used to be monkeys. So when you're in fight or flight, it was designed to help you run from the saber-toothed tiger, right? Classic example. We're no longer being chased by tigers, but our body still responds from this like, I gotta run, or I freeze, or I retreat, right? So knowing that we're not going to respond in that energy, because what generally happens when we do that? What happens when we respond in that energy, which is fear-driven? It's gonna escalate the conflict. There is no planet on which you can convince me, as a conflict dispute resolution expert, that me getting mad in that instance, Rat, I set the tone. I let him know this is not okay. I'm telling you, you didn't get anywhere. You just didn't get anywhere. That's not how we settle things. That's not how we de-escalate things. That's not how we bring things down. That's not how we raise the trajectory to a better place, right? We regret it after. Thank you. Yes, exactly. And then you regret it because then you realize, right? And sometimes people realize it, and that's still like one step in the right awareness. And sometimes we don't even know that we're creating a spiral because we're so knee deep in it. So how many times have you said, or you've heard someone say, oh, do you know what he said to me? And I'm a girl, so I'm always like blaming the guy. I always use he. You can flip the gender at any point. But it's like, oh, I only said that because that person said that. And we justify our behavior. And I have heard thousands of stories. And I get it. Sometimes people do treacherous stuff. Sometimes, and again, chances are, not chances, I'm lightening it here for you. They are doing it from an unconscious place. But the question is, do you want to join them in that unconscious pissing match? Or are you ready to rise above it? Had you already decided, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be in conflict. I want to be happy. I want to be happy no matter what the heck is happening. I've just decided, for me, I just choose that no one can rock my boat anymore, right? So instead of getting so hung up on what the other person does, the question is, what is the action I'm going to take now? Who do I want to be? Who do I get to choose to be? What is the choice point in this moment? And the intention, the tool of the intention, I probably use that 10 times a day. And I have lots of people who work with me and they're like, Rad, you still use this? Like you use it all the time. Maybe not 10 times a day, but I use it several times a day. I use it all the time, right? And yes, when I'm in my heart space, when I've taken care of myself and I've done my meditations and I've done my walks and I've lifted the weights and I've like done whatever it is for me, that's my formula. It comes more automatically. But we're talking about real life with real problems and real challenges. And sometimes the automatic response is not the one we're proud of. It's not the one that, it's the one that we regret, right? So it's a little bit of both. It's easy to respond nicely when you're in a good mood and everyone's being nice. That doesn't build character. We're not building character on a sunny day. We're just enjoying popsicles on a sunny day. And that's fine. That's good. I like a good boring day, right? But these are the choice points where your character gets to shift. And it's like, who do I want to be? How do I want to respond to this? How do I want to model good behavior for my child? Who's going to be the one? And, coming back to the Viktor Frankl quote, when we realize we cannot change the circumstances and people around us, we are forced to change ourselves, right? So the conscious co-parent is the one that is tired of waiting for the other one to come around. And I have full faith that if you're here, you're that parent. And so it doesn't matter if you come here from a place of pain, and generally life, and my own included. Most of my big moments, my big transformational points happened when shit hit the fan. And that's fine. And eventually, Michael Beckwith has this wonderful quote. He's a famous teacher. And he says, pain pushes you until the vision pulls you. So it doesn't matter how you get here, right? But it's deciding for yourself and for your child that the buck stops here. Something's got to give. Something's got to change. There must be a better way to do this, right? And every single moment that you're able to catch yourself, and it ain't easy. I got problems too. Every time you're able to catch yourself from focusing on what the other person is doing, it's going to be the best advice you've ever got. And you come back to saving that energy into what am I going to do about it? What are my options here? And how am I going to move this forward? For me, which ends up becoming a for us, but just start with you. Right now, we can't really think about the other person. I know, I get it. And you don't need to, because you start with yourself. Be motivated by yourself. Be motivated by your child. Let everything else be a beautiful surprise, right? So when you have that choice point, asking yourself, I'm about to say this, I'm about to do this, even if it's like your girlfriend asks you if you want to go for a coffee or you want to go on this trip or whatever, do you want to come help me clean my garage? What is my real desire? And how am I responding? Is it from an energy of love or fear? And as you tune into, and I'm going to give you an example in a moment, as you tune into the energy of love and intention, right, from a pure place, know that there are layers to it. This is what I understand now. Yes, it's black and white in some sense, but there are higher and higher intentions, just like there's lower and lower levels of fear, right? So the highest intention is when you can tune into the highest possible outcome, the highest outcome for all. What is the highest possible outcome I can tune in to for all? So here's so even before I got on this call, right? I'm thinking about the topics. I'm thinking about some examples I want to share, to be able to really drive the point home. I feel like that's where it starts to come alive. And I'm like, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, like recovering perfectionist, and so it's like, how do I drive this point home? And da-da-da-da-da. And I can subconsciously tune into that like worry energy. And worry on the face of it might sound like love. But I'm worried about them. There's something higher than that. The truth is, I have no reason to be worried for you. The truth in my purest form is the universe has your back. The universe has your back because I know the universe has my back. And I could write books about it, and one day I will. So if I know that at the truth, at the highest frequency, at the highest way of seeing things, and the most clear at the top of the mountain, then why am I worried? So is it about you that I'm worried about? Or is it about me that I'm worried about? Is it like self-protection? Is it like, well, I hope they're not disappointed with me? Oh, I hope, right? And listen, we're human. It's like, Rat, you have these thoughts? Yes, we're human. We're still human, right? We still have an ego. And so that's where the fear comes from. The fear, if you want to really break it down, is from the ego mind. And the love is from like our higher self, our spirit, our true essence, whatever you want to call it, right? Like what you were when you were 3 years old running in the field. Because the ego is not really fully developed at that age, right? So you can tune into that energy of just the innocence. So it's like, okay, so then don't worry. So then what's the shift here? So it's like, why do I do this? And I came back to my why. I don't do this because I'm worried about you. I do this because I love doing this. I do this work because I love talking about these things for myself. I'm obsessed. I love it. I love what it's done for me. I've seen the shifts. I've seen shifts in lightning speed. Like I make a shift in my head, boom, marshmallows at the door, like kind of crazy shit. I'm so fascinated. I love it. I've reached states and beings and feelings that I didn't even know existed when I was, a teenager or even an adult. I love it. And I love sharing it. I love teaching. I love telling stories. I love connecting. I love people. See the difference in the energy? That's the energy I came in with today. It's lighter. It's more pure. It's more real. And it's not getting sucked down by, well, what if, right? When I teach trying to worry about what everybody else is dealing with, it completely muddies up the message. When I share what I want to share, and what I love, what I know worked for me, it's a wholly different energy, right? If you think about anyone who does anything, like to any level that we could speak of, like LeBron James, right? When he's playing basketball, he's not worried about the crowd. He didn't play basketball because his dad told him to. I think we can all establish that without ever having met him in person, right? Does it because he loves it, because it makes him come alive. He's in the flow. So it's the same thing. So for me, I had to clean that up, right? Like come back to that. And for me, sometimes if I'm rushing or I'm like worried about the time, I'm like, rah, 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 right? So it's like, okay, slow down, come back to your heart. Why do you do this? I do this because I love it. I love it. I'm so excited. Wow, this is my job. Like, holy shit balls. This is amazing, right? Let me give you one more example. So I've given this example before. So you may have heard this before, some of you, but it's a really clear one for me. There was a time when my current nanny, Jonalyn, started working with us. She's amazing. Angel, the wings you can't see, but they're there. And she had just started working, and this is pre-COVID when I still rushed to an office, and it was about 4 years ago. And I was running out the door, getting the kids out the door, like you all know what I'm talking about. And that's why I love having just parents here. You all know what I'm talking about. We're hustling out the door, lunch boxes, water bottles, who's got what? Oh, you wear your socks, blah, blah, blah. And she says to me, ma'am, I think there's a mistake in my payroll. And I'm like, oh my God. Right? And I'm like, and immediately I can feel my ego get triggered. So I'm like, oh my God, like, does she think I'm like, I would never screw her over? Like, immediately it was like, oh, I don't want her to think that I messed, like I did something foul, because she was very new with us, right? And so I'm like, I don't want her to think anything wrong. I'm like, did I screw something up? And really, if I come under it all, it was like me worrying that I fucked something up, right? And so I stopped, and I'm like, okay. The kids left. I had a few minutes before I was going to get in my car. My husband dropped them off. And I'm like, what is my intention with this conversation? And I remember I was walking down the hall, kind of rushing down my hallway in my main area into the kitchen where she was. And I literally stopped myself. I was like, slammed the brakes on the feet. And it was like, why are you getting so defensive? And that fear, defensive energy is not the energy that you want to bring to this conversation. It's just a genuine question, right? Like there's really, we make things that people say mean something about us and who we are. And so as soon as I became consciously aware of that, again, I was rushing, which is always generally my trigger spot. That's what gets me out of flow. We'll talk more about flow in week 4. And so I stopped and I'm like, what is my intention with my conversation with her right now? What is the energy I want to bring to the conversation right now? And it was like, I just want her to know that like I want to answer her questions and address everything from a loving energy and just make sure that she feels good about it. Okay. And then I stopped myself again. And I was like, is there an intention that's even more powerful than that? This is what I mean by layers of intention. It's like, what do I want to bring to this conversation? And I thought, the highest good for all is not just that I satisfy the question in a nice way. I want her to feel fully supported and safe. I want her to feel like she just moved across the world to a family she's never met before, and that we are like her family, and that she can trust us, and that she's safe, and that we're holding her, and that the sacrifices she's making, for her child who she left behind back in the Philippines, that she did all that for good reason and she ended up in a good place. I want her to feel fully loved and supported. It changed how I showed up in the conversation, because now it was no longer about me. And what did I do? And if I made a mistake, let's fix it. Like, this is the time. Right? So I went in with that, and it shifted something inside of me. This is what power of intention does. It shifts the way we look at things, the way our tone comes out, the way we speak, how we laugh about things, how easy we take things, so the ego's now out of the way, right? It's like, just speak from your heart. So I was like, okay, tell me what did I, let's look at it together. And I had my hand on her shoulder. It was like a wholly different connection. We left laughing. She was beaming. Like, what a beautiful interaction. You think it was just a payroll question, Brad? Like, do you have to take everything so seriously? But that's what living intentionally is. That's where connection is formed or broken, right? That's what living in our heart consciously is. And I do believe that we are all shifting into a more heart-spaced way of being. Like literally living from the heart is where we're headed. So that is intention, okay? And you can use this for everything. You can set an intention before you meditate. You can set an intention before you enter a room. You can set an intention before you text someone, before you answer a big request, send an email, right? Everything you do. It's like, why am I really doing this? my girlfriend asks me to come help her clean her garage. She's moving and I'm exhausted and I want to say no. This is not a real example, but it could be, right? And it's like, what do I really need right now? And why am I saying yes when I mean no? What is my intention? And it's usually fear-driven. When we say yes, when we mean no, it's generally fear-driven, right? So it's like, well, I don't want her to feel bad. I don't want, again, it's also not just fear of like how they will react to you, but a lot of people will say, oh, but I feel bad for my friend. It's because you don't have the faith, the framework that the universe has your back, that we're all supported, that there's a connection between all of us, that there's something wildly, like even how you all got here. How did this all happen? Right? There's something that's tying us all together. And we're going to tune more into this, whatever that way that looks for you. And so once you have that, then you can answer your friend with honor and be like, I can't do it because it's not good for me. And I would never want to be there disingenuously out of fear. And I trust that my friend's going to be okay. I remember one time during COVID, my brother and my younger sister was living with us, recovering from her tumor removal. And my older brother and his wife and son would visit every weekend. And it was like our bubble, right? And so everybody remembers, like you couldn't go anywhere. And so there was a day where I was like, I just can't host today. Like, I'm just so tired and I can't do it. And I'm just feeling drained. I really would just love a day off. And it's not like a 2-hour visit. It's like they come at noon, they stay till 10, it's like 3 meals. It's like the whole day and it's fun, but I just didn't have it in me. And I was feeling so bad because during COVID, it's not like I can be like, well, if they don't hang out with us, they'll go do something else. It's like, if I say no right now, they have nowhere they're going to go. Like there's no movies, there's no nada, right? And I remember I messaged my brother and I was like, bro, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what to say to you. Can we reschedule? Can we do this like next week? Or can we just skip this weekend? How do you feel? I'm really sorry. And he writes me back and he goes, honestly, we were worried the whole time about canceling, but Angie's actually got vertigo today and she really couldn't come. And I was like, wow, see, this is the connectivity of all the truths. If it's not good for you, chances it's not good for the other person either. And I say chances lightly because I'm going to put it in writing to you. Like, it is not good for the other person. When you honor yourself, you honor that person, right? And then you honor the truth, and then that person's liberated to go do what they need to do. Maybe my friend was supposed to have somebody else come clean the garage with her that day. Maybe a neighbor was going to pop by, ends up being her next husband. Like, who knows, right? Like, get out of the way. Trust the process. Trust your own self. So it's coming back to the heart. It's, why am I saying what I'm about to say? Is this really the best course of action? Is this the highest truth? Is this the highest intention? Am I connecting to an energy of love, or am I connecting to an energy of fear? Once you start to be able to use this more and more consciously, I have so many members who will tell me like this was one of their biggest tools that they keep in the toolbox. Men, women of all shapes, sizes, backgrounds, right? Like, why? Just pause and ask why. Because we do live so unconsciously. We forget where we're driving, we forget our phone, we'd forget our heads if they weren't attached, like, right? So coming back to why and making that choice point for you, and again, modeling it for your child, right? When we say things like, well, I just need to show her or show him, this is not acceptable. Is there another way we can do that? Asking questions like, am I really the one that's going to teach this person this? If I couldn't teach this person this up until now, is it really going to be me, the one that's going to teach it? And am I going to teach it from an energy of fear? If I were going to be the one who's going to show someone the light, is it from the energy of fear? It's not, right? So connecting to that and being present with that. And again, the practice of the meditation practice is to allow us to create a choice point. Because if we're so busy, like a choo-choo train, out of control, right? Moving, gotta go, gotta get the kids, gotta do this, gotta make that dinner, blah, 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 blah. There's no time to make a choice. You're just a series of reactions. You're just a series of reactions from old programming from 0 to 35. We want new results. We got to do something new. And I can't tell you how many people have told me that that space, when they start to create that space between their thoughts, you're never going to stop your thoughts, right? When you create that space between your thoughts in the meditation practice, you literally create this gap where you bring consciousness, you bring awareness, and you create this space from where you can make a new choice in the energy of love or in the energy of fear. And it all comes back to, who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? Will I regret this later? Right? And what is the trajectory that I'm trying to create here? And one of the things that I want to share with you that many members have shared with me in the co-parenting route is, while things will happen, you're going to start to see different reactions from your former spouse in time. You may, right? Like, I don't want to promise. I'd bet on it. Okay. And so sometimes what happens is the person's like so surprised that you're being so nice that they question your motives. Because they're like, well, why is this person being so nice? Like, what do you want? Right? Sometimes it's like, I keep doing it and I'm not getting a response. So then I stopped. Remembering that this is not to manipulate someone. This is not to change someone. It's to change your life. When you shift your energy, the way you move through the world, the way you think, it's for you. So that you're simmering in that energy, that you're feeling peace, that you go to bed at night quickly. Because it's like, I did my best. I did my best. If there really was a pearly gate where we had to answer at the end of our lives and someone says, well, what did you do? So-and-so. It's like, I really tried my best. So you might get good reactions. Also is the third possibility, right? From no reaction to doubt and like wonder, like, why is this person being so nice to me? And I've heard a lot of people say that. And then the third one is the person responds positively. And you're like, oh, I have a magic wand in my hand. Like, this is amazing. And then 2 weeks pass and something happens. And you're like, Rad, you'll call me, message me. It doesn't work. It worked until it didn't work. And now I give up, right? It's like old patterns will come back up. That is not the time to stop. This is not a lose 10 pounds in 30 days kind of thing, right? This is like for life. This is for life. We're in it for the long game, right? To decide, am I in this for the long game? And am I here to manipulate people, or am I just here to be that? What's the legacy I want to leave, you know? I always think, like, if I died tomorrow, I'd be pretty proud of myself. Did what I could, spread the recordings everywhere. Like, you know, like we did what we could. I did my best. And I help when I can. And if I can't, I'm honest. That's living integrity, right? Integrated with yourself. In honor of yourself. Not overgiving and then resenting everybody for it, right? And taking responsibility in a loving, compassionate way for how the heck we got here. Because our options are to blame everybody else and everything else, and my mother and my dog and my goldfish that I had in grade 6, and my ex and my neighbor and my old boss and my, right? Or we can be like, wow, I don't know how I got here. Or now, as you wake up and climb the mountain, and many of you may already be there, it's like, I can see now how I ended up in this pattern of behavior. I can see now how I reacted in certain situations the way I did, how I accepted certain things the way I did when I shouldn't have. I can see that now. And in that moment of awareness, and there are going to be thousands of these moments, if not hundreds, there'll be many, many, many. Compassion, 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 compassion for yourself. Because if you were fully conscious, you probably wouldn't have made that choice, right? If you knew you had a choice, probably wouldn't have made that choice. So this brings us into the next topic, and this is vision and mission. When we are now creating our next chapter, and there's always a next chapter. I have my next chapter. You have your next chapter. We all have next chapters from wherever you're at. If today you decide today is the start of the next chapter, whenever it was, it is so much more powerful to know where you're going and why. And what ends up happening, especially after the end of a big relationship, is that we become boats in water with no direction. It's funny the amount of energy we spend on weddings, right? It's like the dreams and the visions and the details and the white ribbon and the, oh my God, and the bridesmaids' dresses and the bachelor party and holy cow, right? It's like billions of dollars of industry. Now it's time to create a new vision. And what this requires us to do is to let go of the past. And it may take time. I understand that. But this vision is what your child will thrive off of. Because if you're I often use this, the boat analogy. If you're the captain of the boat of your family, and they say to you, Mommy, where are we going? Daddy, where are we going? And you're like, I don't really know. I don't really know. I know we're leaving this, but I don't really know. Or we left this, or I don't, whatever your circumstances are. Okay, I know we're all in different places. It doesn't matter. It all applies to all of us. We knew when we were getting married. We knew when we were having the baby. We knew when we were entering the relationship. We had clarity. We had a vision, right? And so now it's like, if you could look at your child and be like, we're heading this way. We're going over here. And I don't know exactly the fine details of it. And I don't know, how it's all going to work out. And if you're really open, life will just exceed your wildest expectations. That has been my experience in every single category of my life. Life has exceeded my expectations in every single category, right? But it's like, does the boat have a destination? Do you know which way you're pointing and why? And that means letting go of the guilt that your kids probably feel. And like, how did we get here? How are we in this situation? And instead, understanding and remembering the universe has my child back. And when I'm thriving, my child will thrive. When I'm clear, I will find solutions for my kids' needs, right? I know some parents here in this group have kids who are dealing with some major stuff, right? So let's get the boat moving in the right direction. We're going to start with the vision. Let's start with the vision because that's kind of alive in my brain right now. I'm going to explain both. So the mission statement is more like what I'm about. is this is what I'm about, and this is what I'm becoming more of. This is what I'm about, right? So every single piece of clothing you're wearing today, and the chair you're sitting in, and the house you're sitting in, and all the things, I'm going to bet all of those corporations like the Gap and, Bernbrook Homes and whoever the heck, they all have mission statements. Coca-Cola. Hopefully none of us are drinking Coke still, but, once in a while, take a little sip. Coke has a mission statement. Big firms have a mission statement. It was one of the turning points, and you can use this in personal, family, and in business. It was a game changer in my law firm when I created a mission statement. And most importantly, it was for me and also for the staff and the people that I brought onto my boat, right? Because when you are floating in the middle of the sea and you're kind of cast away, like Tom Hanks, and you're like, I don't really know where I'm going, but the pina coladas right now are doing it. Like, we're fine. We're just going to see what happens. Then other people who are kind of wafting in the water join you. And they're like, well, where are you going? Where's your boat going? Lakani Law. And I'm like, kind of over there. Like, I don't really know, but general direction, east. And then they get on the boat and they're like, okay, pina coladas are doing it for a little while. And then they go, oh, you're not going over there? I thought you were going to Turks and Caicos. You're going to Center Island? Yeah, no, I'm getting off the boat. There's no alignment. There's no alignment, right? When you're clear about where you're going, the people who are also clear about going in the same direction, get on your boat. And that's how you build partnerships. That's how you build relationships, marriage. It's what I do in joint couples counseling now, right? It's like, what's the joint vision? And when you're a parent, and you can do this with your partner, if your ex or your partner is open to this, it's powerful stuff. And you can also do it alone, and it's equally powerful. Okay, so it's like, where am I going? And for your child, as the captain of your child's ship, they will thrive from this. Because instead of your kid saying, Mommy, where are we going, Daddy? And you go, I don't really know. We'll be okay. To, we're setting a new sail. This is where we're going. And this is why. And it's going to be amazing. And I can feel it already. I can see it. I can taste it. Right? So your mission statement is going to be fueled by your values. So that was day one, right? We talked about the values and making a list of 10 to 12 core values that are really who you are, what matters to you, and why. And as you have that list, you start to write your mission statement. And I will be putting a sample in the workbook today for you to see a couple, right? And you may decide I want to create one for myself. And then I'd like to do a separate one for my family. I think that's awesome. That's kind of what I would suggest. If you can do both, excuse me, do both of them. And it's pretty short. It's like a couple of paragraphs, right? And it lets people know what you're about. The vision is different. And when it comes to the visioning, and there's lots of people that talk about this topic, and I'm actually explaining it in a much more, if I'm allowed to say, refined way than even the first times I was teaching it, and it was working for people even then. But I'm going to share it with you how I see it. It's about feeling. It's about feeling. So if it makes you feel good to put this on your vision, and it could be on a board, it could be electronic. There's like apps that you can use for vision boarding. You can put the name of one in the workbook. I believe it's already there. It doesn't really matter how you do it. You might take that Bristol board we were talking about in day one and start to cut magazine pictures, and like, who has magazines anymore? So when I started doing vision boards again, I actually went and bought like a couple magazines, right? Or ask your dentist if you can steal all the outdated ones in their lobby, like do what you got to do, right? So, but it's starting to think about, where am I going? So am I going to Turks? Am I going here? Am I going there? Like, what do I want? But more importantly, What does it feel like? How do I want it to feel? And when I think of something, so if you put a picture of a mansion or you put a picture of a boat, you know, if it elicits good feeling when you look at it, if you can already feel and taste it, that goes on the board. If it makes you freak out and go, okay, but how? Yeah, like it looks great, but how? Then either we need to revisit putting it on until you can let go of the how. The two biggest blocks I see in manifesting a vision are this. Number one, worrying about how. And again, that's because we think with this very small mind and we think we have to do everything on our own and we got to hustle, right? People are like, I want to live in more ease and flow instead of hustling. Well, that happens when you understand you are part of something bigger. I just shared with one of the members in this group, you know, last year, the first year where I was going to be a little mindful of my spending, right? Like we went on one vacation, we're good for the year. And I was always the one in my family who paid for the trips, right? But it's like, Mama just quit her job. Let's just be smart about this. Let's be responsible. So I was in a good place. It wasn't out of a place of fear, but it was just like, this may not be the year that we do multiple trips. And it was like the year after COVID, right? Like traveling really only started last February, Jan. So of all years that I were to receive things, last year I received 2 paid vacations for my entire family of 4. Flights, hotel, all-inclusive, top-notch hotels in the world. And I thought, look at the timing of things, right? If I were to have gotten stuck in the how, like I still desired it. It's just like, I don't know that I was thinking to pay for it, but it was like still obviously a desire in the back of my mind. If I got stuck on the how, I wouldn't be able to receive it in the way that I do, right? My son and I, in November 2021, were sitting there and I create this like a friend of ours suggested 111 things that you want to manifest in the year, like when you're doing a New Year. It was like New Year time. It wasn't November, it was like New Year's time. And he wanted me to play with Play-Doh or something, and I really wanted to do this thing. So I was like, why don't you come and do this with me, right? And this is like group flow. So I'm like, why don't you come do this with me? And he loved it. He sat on my lap, anything to do with mommy. He's so sweet. And he was like, okay, I'm like, what would be amazing if we did next year? And so we were going down a list, and it was like small things, like have a picnic, go to Lake Wilcox, get ice cream, like small things, right? But so that you don't take for granted that that's really what you wanted all year. And then when you get it, you tick it off. So it's kind of a cool thing you could do on your phone, right? And so it's literally full on COVID. We all just swabbed our noses for like 2 weeks during the holidays. We were not going anywhere. The numbers were rampant. And my son and I looked at each other and I was like, what if we could go on a plane? Like we haven't been on a plane in so long. And my husband walked back behind us and he looked at us and he's like, yeah, okay, good luck. He's like, I don't think we're going anywhere next year, like let alone getting on a plane, like not even Montreal. And me and my son just looked at each other and we're like, do we buy into that? I'm like, well, we're just going to put it anyways, right? We're like the believers, the optimists of the family. So we put it on the list. And I closed my eyes. It was just one moment. I closed my eyes. I pictured my feet in white sand. I pictured in like the whitest sand, whiter than I'd ever seen in my life. And I literally had a conversation in my head and I was like, I don't know how, but I would like to be on a beach in the first quarter of next year. And then I just let it go. But I remember almost where I was sitting. It was in the family room when I had that thought. Well, the numbers are crazy. How the heck are you going to get on a plane? Q1, that's a pretty tight deadline. What happens January 4th? I get COVID. My kids get COVID. My husband gets COVID. Everybody gets COVID. It was pretty bad for me. I was out for 3 weeks. My system was like rest, which is a whole other story. And so we had COVID. Thank God the kids were okay. We all fared well. And then we were like, where are the passports? And we started thinking about, could we travel? Before I could even pick up my passport. I get a text from our favorite family that we travel with because the kids are just so simpatico. Me and the wife go to bed early and meditate to the sunrise. The husbands love to drink at the bar. Like, it's just perfect, right? She messages me and she's like, Rad, we're going to Turks and Caicos. Come with us. I told my husband, and he's like, Annie is a hypochondriac. She's going to Turks and she's going to get on a plane. I'm like, what could happen? We just had COVID. Like, that was the thing we were worried about. Now we have immunity. Like, let's just, then we check our bucket list hotel, beaches, Turks and Caicos. We've never been to Turks. It was so expensive, let alone beaches, which is so expensive. And it was like 60% off. And I had points coming out of the yin yang for like flights. And so we go in one, like from the time we had the conversation to booked in there was maybe 10 days. And from the time that I had the thought in the family room to the time that I was there was 6 weeks. We went from what? Like the numbers are at 20,000, no one's going nowhere. I'm not even going to the grocery store to I was in Turks and Caicos with my feet in white sand. So when you're doing this, getting caught up in the how is something that we just have to let go of, right? The other thing is, the second big block is worthiness. Feeling worthy of being able to have this. When I shared this story with one of my private clients, when I got back, she said to me, see, Rad, that works for you. I couldn't do that because in my head, I'm thinking, but like, I don't deserve that. Other people deserve that. But like, how could I have that? And I thought, wow, like that is such a key element here. And is a topic that comes up constantly. Like once you start being introduced to this terminology, you'll see it's just going to constantly come up. Tony Robbins, who's coached millions of people, always says to his team, the number one thing that's at the root of the bottom of all the internal inner conflict, is worthiness. Not feeling good enough to have the things that we want, right? So when we're doing this vision, sometimes picking things, tangible things can trip us up. I might be able to get behind energetically, like one day to have $300,000 a year from my business. And it's like, well, what would help me get behind that? Well, I've done that before. I believe in my business, blah, 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 blah. Whatever reasoning I have in my head, okay? Money is a good example to be able to show you this in increments. But if I put $1 billion a year, I might all of a sudden be like, how? Like, how is that possible, right? And I know the logical mind of people are thinking, well, that's just not possible. But there are people who win lotteries. There are people who win. We were in the middle of a manifestation program with a bunch of fellow coaches. And one of the women's partners jokingly kind of created a vision for himself. And he wasn't even in the group. And he was like, $2 million. I'm going to manifest $2 million, 2 for me and 2 for my cheeky boo. And within a month, it was like that story where you're like, man, why don't I have an aunt? One of his aunts left him a massive inheritance in her will. So all kinds of things can happen. And right now that might feel a little far-fetched for some people. And for some people, it's fascinating. For me, it's fascinating. So put things that light you up, that feel good. And if you feel resistance around something that feels like pretty reasonable, that's the work. Dig into that. Why don't I feel like I can have this? Am I worrying about the how? Do I not feel like I can have this? Why can't I have this? Right? We have blocks around receiving, and we're going to talk way more about receiving and allowing. But so creating a vision for your family, right? Where do we want to be? Where are we headed? How does that feel? More than how does it look? Because the look is the fine details, right? Feel free to ask any questions around this. that you might have. I'm just going to come to the chat. I'm sorry, and you had a question earlier, Ron. Do you remember what the question is? I'm happy to go into it. And you're also welcome. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. It was just about it was about the last section that we were talking about, intention.
Mm-hmm.
So it was basically like, and this relates towards co-parenting, right? So like dealing with your children and your spouse or your ex-spouse. It's like, okay, I guess I got to give an example. Let's say it's their birthday party, okay? And you know, together you agreed that you would have both sides of the family come together for their birthday for the children.
Mm-hmm.
But one of you wasn't feeling that you wanted to have the partner's family come
Mm-hmm.
because it makes you feel a certain way or whatever it is.
Right.
So do you at that time or in that moment, you know, how you said, if you don't feel like doing something, you know, you have to say it. You have to kind of say like, I just can't, like mentally or whatever, I can't. So it's like knowing what is the right decision. Do you listen to you or do you do it for your kids?
And so tell me why you would do it for your kids.
I would say because you don't want to take that away from them, like those special moments, like just allowing them to feel like they get that moment of both their families that could be together. You know, I think it's like you just feel so bad that you've detached separately and you kind of just want to do it for them so they feel that like loving kind of space, I guess.
It's a great question. And so many people ask this question. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to recap for the question just for the recording so people have it. The question was, you know, you have your co-parent and it's their birthday and you want to, you know, the question comes up about like, do we still have a joint birthday where both sides of the family show up and everyone's there to celebrate this one parent for the sake of the children, right? And do we say no because it feels bad to us? Or do we say yes because we feel bad for the kids that we've separated and not allow them to have this joint moment anymore? Fantastic question. Thank you so much. This comes up so much. So first of all, the moment we use, for me, when I'm thinking of it for myself, the moment I use the word bad, like what I feel bad that, you know, it's like with my brother's example, it's like, I feel bad that we know we're into fear. We're driven by fear. Because you should feel good when you gather with people. And when we're feeling bad about having the gathering, chances are the energy you'll be in on that day is probably not going to be great. So it's not going to be good for you and it's going to take from you. And even if you are a master at masking your emotion, which already there's more red flags there because we never want to do that, right? And you don't let on to anybody. Do you think your kids are smart enough to know when you're uncomfortable? Yeah. And do you think that that's going to impact how you parent after that? Like how your mood would be maybe in the hours after that as you kind of coming off of that event? Yes. Right. So many indicators of that this is probably not a good idea. And we feel bad that the kids don't have X is guilt. And guilt with parenting is a classic stealth mode love, right? Like you were like, but isn't guilt love? And it's like, no, guilt's guilt. Guilt pretending to be love, but it's not. And would your kids notice, like, if they're having fun with one cousin or two cousins or 7, do you think they would even notice the difference? No. They're in the present moment. Kids are in the present moment. They teach us and remind us to be in the present moment. Mommy, did you see me? Mommy, can you watch me? Mommy, did you see that? Daddy, Daddy, can we play whatever, right? Can we do Tickle Monster? Present, present, present. I remember my mom, who's a very busy grandmother. So when she comes, it's few and far between. And it's like a monumental moment of like time with grandma. And they call her Nani, right? In Indian and in Gujarati. And so my mom will call me the next day and she's like, so did the kids talk about me? Are they talking about me? What did they say? Ask, put Sahil on the phone. Huh, Sahil? So we had fun yesterday? And Sahil's like already gone. It's like, huh? Yeah, it was great. Gone. And my mom's like, do they remember? Do they talk about it? I'm like, Mom, I don't know what to say to you. They had a great time when you were here. But they live in the present moment. They don't talk about yesterday, ever. Ever. Those birthday parties I used to throw like a fool with like 50 kids until I realized that like this is just insanity. It wasn't 50, but it was a lot of adults. We'd have these big fat Indian birthday parties. Not for the kid. It's like the first birthday party when the kid's not even gonna remember. And then I realized my kids don't care if there's 2 people or 10. In fact, 10 causes more issues. Because it's like, well, so-and-so's not playing with so-and-so and this person's left out, and right? It's like you get them 2 of their people in the room, 1, they're set. The love for your child in this world is infinite, and we underestimate our children. We underestimate how powerful they are, how resilient they are, how smart they are, how supported they are. And here's the thing that I've seen with parents. Eventually, the joint birthday may start to feel good again one day. And chances are, if it doesn't feel good right now, it's probably fresh and recent. And there's lots of things being drummed up in emotion and issues and decisions being made, right? Like I used to deal with people when they were navigating their separation agreement and there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of worry about the future. So that is probably not the time to be all hanging out together. Your worst case scenario is that there's an outburst at the event, things are said subtly or overtly, and then you're more in a pickle. And guess what you'll feel, whether you sucked it up all day or didn't? Resentment. Because now you're doing the dishes and cleaning for a party you never even wanted to have. It's bad enough when it's the party you were the idiot to come up with, right? It's like, I'm always hosting and I'm always like, what's wrong with me? I need to start taking more days off, right? And it's a whole other thing when you didn't even want to do the party. And then the resentment just builds. And the next time a topic like that comes up, guess what it's going to lead to? Probably an explosion, a fight. Things are going to be said, things that didn't get said this time. It's like, yeah, well, last time when you were 2 years ago, right? People are bringing stuff from the past because it's unresolved. So it's like when we're going to clean up we're going to consciously create a more powerful, positive future. It's disentangling from all these funky things that we do, right? And knowing and trusting our kids are so loved. And our kids are not thinking about who's in the room. And if you're clear, even if they asked you, this is where the boat, it's like, where am I going? If we're wandering in the dark and we're like, I don't know if we should, and listen, these questions are legit and like, I love it. And please keep them coming. But when we're in that moment of questioning and not sure if this is okay and not, it's like, that's more harmful to our child. If our kid says, well, so mommy, are we going to have, like, I thought like you and daddy are not together anymore. So I thought like, we wouldn't, is this okay? Like, and you're in a funk about it. Guess what response you're going to give them? A funky one. Unclear, not in your heart, resentful in the background, debating, wondering, doubtful, fearful, sad. Versus if you're clear about what the next chapter is going to look like, and you're like, we're going to have peace and we're going to have love and there's going to be good things. And the kids are going to have 2 families. They've always had 2 families. They're going to get double the birthdays. They're going to double the Christmases right now. And maybe one day things will come back and that will be great too. It's all going to be good. And you can start to feel it. You start to remember you're worthy of this. You start to plan this like you planned the wedding. You start to get excited about it. You stop asking how and just trust for a moment. You start thinking about all those things that happened in the past that were such a miracle, like the birth of your kids, that you really didn't have a big part in, let's be honest. Then it makes it so much easier to look down at your child and they say, are grandma and grandpa coming? And you go, you know what, honey? We're so lucky. We're going to have this party here for Baba or whatever, dad, or right? And we're going to do it. We're going to celebrate it. And then you're going to actually see the other grandparents on this date. And that's going to be amazing. And remember that picnic you wanted to have? Because you told me on your list you wanted to have a picnic. We're going to do it. It's clear energy. They can feel. Kids are smart. Kids are smart. They know when you're fighting. They know when you're clear. They know when you're in alignment. To answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Amazing. All right. That happened to us for, after I first listened to you speak a few years back. Yeah. Thank you, Vicki. It's a process, ebb and flow, just like the ocean. Yeah. This is it. Exactly. You're referring to like when things get better and then things get rocky again. And it's like, hold on, I thought we were doing okay. And then there's shifts. It's like the fact that you can even shift things in a positive direction, like make a change in how you interact, is a miracle, right? Because most couples are in this habitual pattern. So it's like focus on the shifts that you're able to create and don't worry about the setbacks, right? And a lot of people, they think it's just going to be in one direction. And that's the mistake that we make, right? It's like this. Climbing the mountain is going to be like this. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it's going to be okay because even you have old habits. They have old habits, right? Things come up. It's all good. That's literally how we go from information to experience to embodiment. It's like, okay, I know this. I read it in a book. I heard about this. Now I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it again and again and again. And then when it becomes automatic and it's like just who you are, it's your MO, it's how you operate. That's the embodiment moment. Or you've just become another version, right? And that takes that process, it takes a little time. It's like riding a bike. So this week until Tuesday, and mission vision I start with because I know it's a little bit longer of a activity to do. So I like to introduce it at the top. Like I said to you guys, this may evolve in the next few weeks, but take your time with it and also just make sure that you give yourself time to do this. And it's not always easy to make the time. That's the difference between the one that lives consciously or unconsciously, right? The unconscious creator is just like, well, life is happening to me. Life is happening to me and I don't know how I got here and I have no control over where I'm going. And the conscious creator is like, whoa, I can see how I got, like, I don't fully get it, but I can see the small decisions I made that got me here. I can see patterns. I can see why, so-and-so and I connected and how that was good in ways, but then also where we set each other off, and you learn from that. You allow this to be a growth exercise and you decide how the next chapter is going to go because now you know more. No problem. You know more. You understand. You start to play with it. And if you've never consciously created something the way I'm referring to it before, or you're in the early stages, have fun with this. Play with it. The more resistance-free you are around this whole concept, the easier it'll be. Because it's the, oh my God, how? What is she talking about? How is this going to work? Right? That's the stuff that causes things to slow down. When you just start to move into more of an energy of trusting and ease and excitement and desire, and it's like, I don't know how. The numbers are 20,000. Like, I don't know how. But I can feel my feet in the sand. you start to let go of like how and whether, and know that you're worthy, and just play with it, try it out. I have manifested instant chocolate covered strawberries to coconut water, like in funny stories, right? Like I won at an Italian bridal shower marshmallows in this gorgeous like glass vase, because the Italians know how to do it, right? Want to go to a good baby shower and win some real good stuff, go to make some Italian friends. I know a few of you are Italian, so that's especially for you. Right? But so, and it's not just marshmallows, right? And sometimes the smaller things are easier to manifest because we don't have so much mess around it. We're not so entangled around marshmallows. Like, who cares? Like, I didn't even know, right? I was just walking through my kitchen, pregnant with my second, stuffing my face on the way out the door and going, oh, for my 1-year-old, like 1.5-year-old. And I thought, what did my mom used to make? You start to think they're trying to eat now. And I wanted to be that Betty Crocker mom where there was always baked goods on the counter. That didn't happen. And I was like, marshmallow, like Rice Krispie squares, like that would be really fun to make. And I thought, okay, I have Rice Krispies. We have butter, but I don't have marshmallows. I was like, okay. And I walk over, like, I'm literally wearing the dress, the bridesmaid pink dress I was supposed to wear. I look like a whale to this bridal shower. And then in my competitive type A nature, won this prize, and they handed me a vase of gourmet pink with like a drizzle on it, marshmallows. And I thought, wow. That's not the first time. It started way, way younger. I invited friends over for a hot tub night with like some of my girlfriends. And one of my friends introduced me to Thirsty Buddha. It's like a coconut sparkling drink, right? And I don't drink alcohol anymore. So I was like, oh, I have everything, but I don't have that. I had like a couple. We're crazy. We like to put everything in like champagne buckets and like be very bougie. We're not bougie. We just try to be bougie. And so we're trying to put everything on like nice little trays. And I'm like, oh, I only have like 2 of these lonely drinks. So I text my friend Natalie and I'm like, Nat, don't go back home, because we all live in the same neighborhood. So I know her. She'll just drive home back. I said, but if you haven't left yet, could you grab a couple of the coconut waters if you have any? And instantly I get a text back, and I'll send you the screenshot. She goes, LOL. There's a picture. She's already at my door waiting for me to open the door. And it's a gorgeous wooden basket with 2 of every flavor that was ever made, 12, with a big bow on the top. It's like I could keep you here for weeks and months and years with stories of just like, thought it happened. I thought it happened. I thought it happened. I won $1,000 at the Monte Carlo casino in Monaco this way. Like, that was probably one of my first big ones. Like, I just got excited about it. And I was like, oh, like, how would it feel? And I just watched The Secret. So I was like, how would it feel? And I start thinking about it and feeling into it. And I'm like, oh, Mandeep's gonna give me a high five. And he's like, oh my God, this paid for the whole France leg of our trip, because we were in Europe for a month, lucky ducks. Man, what I would do to go back in time, just do that month again. And then I pressed the wrong button and I put the bet all, and I was like, crap. And he's sitting next to me. We're very like risk averse gamblers. So we're playing like nickel slots. Okay. It's like embarrassing. Like, we really just went for the view and like to have a cappuccino. And we're like, I can't believe this place charges you cover to get in. And so we just put down 20 euros each, and we were kind of competing with each other. So he had like 30 credits left and I had like 32 credits. So I was ahead. And then he plays and he's looking at me and I'm like, what you got going on over there? And then I said this thing where I was like, oh, I'm gonna win. Be like, ah, yes. And then I pressed max bet by accident. And I went, oh crap. I just bet everything I had left. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna lose. Like, and then you hear, and it was like, you won. And then it was like, you won double, triple. It just multiplied. Like, how do you win 1,000 euros from a nickel slot? Beyond me. It just kept tripling and tripling. All of a sudden the thing starts making noise, like a real casino where there's coins, not this like slip that you get, right? Like coins, you want to hear it. And things just started raining on me, and everyone's coming and looking, and I look, and it literally covered the cost of our leg in France. I thought, shit, I should have said the whole trip. Right? And it works both ways. We manifest things in a negative way too. Right? This is why focus is so important. We're going to talk about that next week, about how to focus your mind, and then give you a bunch of real life tools on how to just start to switch our focus, because it's huge, right? And how it applies to our co-parenting relationship based on how we focus on other people, what part of them we focus on. And there's a little bit of that option C flavor that we're going to bring in, Vicky, to this, right? Because focus can be applied in so many ways. So yeah. So this time right now, start or continue your meditation practice. Take some time. Do this for you. If you try this out, remember, I've had people who are like, I'm not a meditator. I can't. Next thing I know, she's like meditating with her whole family. Her kids are meditating. One of this friend's sons actually had a physical symptom that he was dealing with that went away after he started doing it with her, right? Which was really cool. So even the non-believers become believers when they try it. So if you don't try it, you can't tell. It's like broccoli, right? So you tell your kids, if you don't try it, how do you know if you don't like broccoli? Because it looks weird. But so try it out. And if you are a meditator and if you have a practice, go deeper, get more regular. I invite you to do the long ones that I have on my website that are in Meditation Mastery Masterclass already that you have access to. Have some fun with the mission statement. Go have a date with yourself. Start to think about this next chapter. What do you want? What do you want your child to have? How do you want this to go? And it can also include if you're in the process of separating right now. You know, people say to me like, oh, this separation is going to be so hard. I just know. Like they're bracing themselves for a war. War takes how many people? 2. And I know it's hard because there's old patterns and old ways, and they're going to test you and all the things. I get it. But war takes 2 people. And you can decide that something just gets to be easier than you thought. You can decide, you can focus on clarity and solutions, you know? And when you're in that energy and that mindset, you will also attract professionals like lawyers and mediators and people who are of that mindset. I used to be able to tell you as a lawyer about the personality of the other spouse once you told me who they retained. So people would come in, and one of the questions we had in our intake form was, does your ex have a lawyer yet? Do you know? And who is it, if you know? And if the name was on that form, that told me volumes about how this is going to go. If I knew the name, sometimes you don't know the name. But if I knew who it was, it told me volumes about how this is going to go and the headspace this person's in. Because if you picked a barracuda, you either want to protect yourself. And it may not even make sense rationally to the other spouse. Like the spouse that's on my side would be like, well, protect yourself from what? Right? It's like they are triggered by fear of money, of losing stuff, of whatever, of like, there's just reasons, right? They don't know how to use their voice, so they're going to pick somebody who's loud. There's so many reasons. So it would tell me, right? So when you're in the energy of this gets to be easy, I want this to be easy, I want this to be peaceful, I want us to be, there are couples who do separation peacefully. You get to be that. Your kids get to have that. And the science shows us 2 happy homes is way better for children than 1 conflict-filled home. And conflict can happen, as we know, in any home. It can happen in my home, right? This is not just about parents who are separating. It really is an important conversation that I want to have more and more with parents, because I think sometimes the parents who think they're together are exempt. And it's like, no. This applies to all of us. Kids are not harmed by divorce. They're harmed by conflict. And you as a conscious co-parent here have this beautiful opportunity as you expand your awareness and your self-awareness and your desire and your decision to shift now the trajectory of your child's life in the most powerful, beautiful way. So again, I'll never stop commending you to be here. Bravo. Keep it up. Do the things. Look out in the Facebook group for the journaling worksheet. It should be up by this afternoon with the recording before I wrap my workday. And if you have any questions, I'm here. Next week, I will be running a live meditation for anyone who wants to join. I like to do this for the members of an ongoing group. And this time, I'm going to invite anybody who's done a program with me in the past in the community, because I've had a few people ask. So it'd be a nice way for you to kind of enter the community as a new member, if you're new to us, and also to bring in some people who are still doing the work and still raising their vibration and their flow and consciously creating beautiful chapters. So I will be sending out an email with the time and date. I can tell you right now, I was going to say Tuesday, but just to give everyone max notice. No, I'm hearing Tuesday. Okay. My instinct is saying we're going to stick with Tuesday. We're going to stick with next Tuesday. And I will put a message in the email and in the Facebook group about that. All right. So that will be 6 a.m. EST. I know some of you are in a different time zone, so we will record it for you. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for your beautiful energy, for your questions, for your amazingness. And we'll see you on Tuesday in the morning and at noon. Okay. Bye, guys. Have a great weekend.